In those mind games forever. Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all well and dandy out there in Beatles world, YouTube land, people of the internet and the VC, and anybody else who's just come across my little channel. Now today is a very special day. Today would have been John Lennon's 84th birthday. I'm sure he's having a party up there with George and Jimi Hendrix and people like that, and Bob Marley. God, what a party that'd be, eh? Brian Jones. So to celebrate his birthday, I'm going to pick a song, and I do mean just one song, off all of John's albums. Now, the albums are going to go from the John Lennon Plastic Ono Band LP in 1970. And it's going to finish off with the Milk and Honey LP from 1984. Basically, because they are what you would class as his studio albums, although Milk and Honey was released after he died. Now, also today, the 9th of October, is a very special day to me personally, because it's my daughter Claire's birthday. So, happy birthday, Claire. I know you watch the videos sometimes. I hope you're having a wonderful day. And also, happy birthday to Sean Lennon, because it's his birthday as well. So, it isn't really a tag video, but if people want to join in, they are more than welcome. You can do your own take on this. The only rule is you can't include any singles off the albums. Yeah, and it's got to be from 1970 to 1984, what is officially classed as the studio albums. Okay, so if you want to join in, folks, please do. Let's get some love and peace for John out there. Yeah. Right, so the first album is from 1970. John Lennon Plastic Ono Band, John's first official solo album. There's some wonderful songs on this. A lot of Beatles fans will say this is their favourite John Lennon album. It's a close second for me, to be honest. But of all the wonderful songs that are on here, like Mother, Remember, I Found Out, things like that, I've actually chose one of John's simplest songs that he wrote in many years up to this point, which is simply called Love, and it is basically a love song. Love is real, real is love, love is feeling, feeling love. Such lovely simple lyrics set to a lovely little tune. Very simple but straight to the point. I think it's one of John's loveliest love songs, basically, and that's it, isn't it? For saying this is like his Primal Scream album or his heavy rock album, as some people have classed it, I think that is a really down to earth sort of John Lennon song. He's not trying to prove out, he's just singing from the heart, I think. But again, that is just my opinion. So from 1970, we move on to 1971, probably John's most famous album, Imagine. Again, there's a lot of songs I could have picked off here, but remember, you can't have anything that came out as a single, so I can't have Imagine or Jealous Guy. I was thinking of doing I Don't Want to Be a Soldier or How Do You Sleep, but I thought, no, this is supposed to be like my favourite songs off the albums. Now, it is hard because on some of the albums, I like every single song. So I'm going to go with another love song as such, and it's Oh My Love, which is basically a rewrite or an update of Love. Oh my love, for the first time in my life, my eyes are wide open. And this song has got a special meaning to me because when I got married to Sue last year, Susie Sue, this was actually the song that we picked for like our first dance as man and wife. Yeah, and it is a strange song to pick, and it in one way it's a strange song to dance to, but it wasn't. It was quite easy to dance to, and basically it is how I feel about Sue. So it's always got a sort of special place in my heart, that song. So that is the one off Imagine, would be Oh My Love. Hope you're all joining in. Right, now for the album that most people seem to hate nowadays, although a few years ago I can't remember anybody on any YouTube channel about the Beatles saying that they hated this album. They might have said it was one of the least favourite solo Beatles albums, but it has still got its merits, in all honesty. The reason that when nobody likes it now is because of one song, really, isn't it? John's political album. I'm going to pick The Look of the Irish off this, basically because, again, it is such a nice tune. John sort of like searching for his roots, because I don't know if you know this or not, but John Lennon had got Irish history in his family. The words, I think they're heartfelt, but I think it's the tune that makes this to me. It does actually sound like an Irish song. If you had the look of the Irish, brilliant. So for that's from 1972, Look of the Irish. Now, I think we're lucky to have somebody like John Lennon in our lives, or somebody like John Lennon that's touched our lives. Obviously, if you're watching this, you do love John Lennon for the Beatles. I think there was a John Lennon for everybody. You've got John Lennon, the little boy. You've got John Lennon, the teenager. You've got Beatle John, haven't you? You've got psychedelic John. You've got experimental John. Some people would say you've got weird John. You've got John, the man of peace. You've got, John Lennon, the solo artist, is what we're celebrating today. You've got, John Lennon, the poet, John Lennon, the writer, John Lennon, the songwriter, John Lennon, the guitarist, John Lennon, the piano player, John Lennon, the comedian, the fool. He always used to say he played the fool, didn't he? But yeah, I think there was a John Lennon for everybody. And for saying that, John was only just over 40 when he died, I think he packed 4 or 5 lifetimes into his actual lifetime. So now up to 1973. And this is the album that everybody's been talking about this year, really, isn't it? Although this is the original from 1973, Mind Games. So I can't have Mind Games. You know something? This is the second time I've done this, and I know the song that I want, but I can never remember the name of it. Out of the Blue. Out of the blue you came to me and blew away life's misery. Again, John singing from the heart, I think. I think John Lennon was a fantastic writer of what we would call love songs in one way, but I don't think he ever thought he was. I always think John Lennon thought, no, I've got to be, be doing rock songs. He did do some really, really classic love songs, both in his solo work and with the Beatles, which a lot of people do overlook, I think. So yeah, so that is the one from Mind Games. Check out this album. You don't have to go out and buy all these expensive reissues. It's nice if you can, don't get me wrong. But this album, the original one from 1973, you can pick up off eBay and other internet selling sites for around £10 for a nice copy. But make sure it has got the inner lyric sheet with it. So yeah, Out of the Blue. Out of the Blue is the title of quite a few songs, because even ELO did a song called Out of the Blue. Yeah. Now we come up to 1974, and probably one of John's best albums in a lot of ways, Walls and Bridges. This is quite easy for me. It's Going Down on Love. Again, it's sort of like a funky song. Going down on love. Ding, ding. Going down on love. Boom, boom, boom. But it is sort of a love song. And I think he's singing it to May Pang. I could be wrong, because at this time, although he was going out with May Pang, I think he was still trying to get back with Yoko, wasn't he? Yeah, Going Down on Love. I could have had quite a few off here, to be honest. Obviously, couldn't have Whatever Gets Through the Night, because that was the big single off here. Bless You's a good song. Steel & Glass is a fantastic song, actually. Beef Jerky and Nobody Loves You When You're Down and Out is another good song. But for me, the outstanding song on this is Going Down on Love. Again, check this album out. If you're going to get the original, try and get one that has got this flip over. It does only have 2, by the way. There's only 2. And it should come with a little booklet as well. Then we've got Rock and Roll. This was John's technically final Apple album. No original songs on this whatsoever. It is all covers of basically rock and roll songs and 1960s songs. Stand By Me, which is the outstanding track for me on here, was actually released as a single. He does Bebopaloola. He does a couple of medleys. He does Peggy Sue's version. That's very good. I'm going to pick Slipping and a Sliding. Slipping and a sliding, hipping and a hiding, people a long time ago. Ho. Now, I know that was released in some countries, but in the UK, that was not released as a single. So that's why I've included it. If you're going to do a video of this, feel free to do it. And if that was a single in your country, then obviously you can't have that. But yeah, Slipping and Sliding was not a single in the UK. It probably should have been, because it was a really, really great vocal performance from John. And it is one of those cover versions where you can actually tell that he's enjoying doing it. I know this album was recording a lot of mayhem, drinking, drugs and whatever. But I think that and Stand By Me are probably the best songs on this album. It is a fantastic album to listen to. Don't be put off if you haven't got this or if you've never heard of it. Don't be put off because it's cover songs. It is John Lennon doing cover songs. So sometimes they sound a little bit better than the originals, as he did with a few of the Beatles cover songs. Don't Twist and Shout, most people think that is a Lennon and McCartney song, and it's not, is it? So yeah, Slipping and a Sliding, hipping and a hand, Beatle Dave, please like and subscribe, by the way, if you're not already. Now there's a gap from 1975, although Shaved Fish was released, which was a compilation album. Then we come up to what everybody considers John's comeback album, Double Fantasy, which was a joint effort with Yoko Ono. So they, instead of doing an album each, they did an album between them, although it is only a single disc. And again, this is quite hard because a lot of the best songs on this were sort of like singles, like just like Starting Over. Woman was a single, wasn't it? I'm going to go with I'm Losing You. Which again, depending on which version, because there's a couple of versions of it. On this album, it is more of like a ballady sort of like song. I'm losing you here in some stranger's room. Got some nice guitar work on it, and apparently, I think is it Cheap Trick was actually the backing band on that originally. There is a version where it is a hell of a lot more rockier. On this, it's more like a pop sort of song. Again, John singing from his heart. By this time he was back with Yoko, and they'd had Sean. There's a couple of on here that I could have picked. Clean Up Time is also, I think, a good song. Yeah, but yeah, it would be I'm Losing You. I'm losing you. If I could do the singles, it would probably be just like Starting Over, but we can't. And then we'll go to the final one. This came out in 1984, although a lot of the tracks were recorded before John died. Again, Borrowed Time and Nobody Told Me. And I think I'm Stepping Out was released as a single as well, wasn't it? In America. So this is going to be quite a hard one. I think I'm going to go with a song that most people don't like off this, because it is the only song on here that wasn't completely finished. It did have a few overdubs on it, but it was actually taken from a cassette that John was supposedly recorded just before he died. And if you haven't guessed yet, it's a song called Grow Old With Me. Now, rumour has it that the three surviving Beatles, Paul, George and Ringo, did actually try to do a version of this when they was doing the Free as a Bird and Real Love sessions for Anthology. How far they got with that, I don't know. George Martin, when he was still alive, did do a version of this. It took John's vocal and did it to like orchestral backing, which again, if you haven't heard that version of it, it is very, very moving. Ringo did a version of it as well. Ringo Starr's done a version of it. This is a very, very raw recording. It's basically John on a piano and a beatbox. But the emotion still comes through. And that's going to be it. So that is my favourite songs from John Lennon's albums. Bearing in mind, you can't have singles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So basically, it was just eight albums, wasn't it? Well, technically, in his lifetime, because that wasn't in his lifetime, John Lennon only recorded 7 official studio albums, not including the experimental albums with which he did with Yoko. So for saying he only recorded 7 albums after the Beatles, I would still say John Lennon is probably one of the most famous people in the world still. Again, this is just my opinion. I think all the Beatles, whether they're still with us or they've passed away, all 4 of them, people around the world still know them, don't they? Yes, a lot of it was to do with when they were the Beatles, obviously. But for saying John didn't make that many solo albums, I think we have still got a great body of work with these. I really do. Is there a bad album among these? A lot of people would say sometime in New York City. To a certain degree, I would agree with that. I think sometime in New York City would have been better just being a single album. But it's where John was at the time. You can't say, well, he shouldn't put this on, he shouldn't put that on. It was John speaking his mind at the time, which did get him into trouble a few times over his life, didn't it? But that was John being honest, John. In a lot of ways, John was the most honest out of the Beatles. In a lot of ways, he wasn't, but in a lot of ways, he was. He wasn't afraid to speak his mind, even when Brian Epstein was still alive and managed him. He could not control John all the time. Most of the time he did do it, a few times he didn't, and then that's when they got into trouble because an interviewer would just ask John an answer and he'd give him his honest opinion at the time. It wasn't scripted, was it? So let's think about John today on what would have been his 84th birthday. And it makes you wonder, doesn't it, if John hadn't have died, what would have happened? I did read a article in a book or a magazine or something many years ago, and I don't know how true this is, so don't take this as gospel, but John was going to do a world tour in 1981. He was going to do a world tour, or he wanted to do a world tour, and he was going to come back to England and play and see Aunt Mimi and people like that, and Julian and Cynthia and his friends and things like that. And he had arranged to meet up with Paul. Now, this is a bit that I don't know how true it is, but apparently he wanted to meet up with Paul and he wanted to see if they could sit together and try and write a song. So it wouldn't necessarily have been a Beatles reunion, and that song might never have been recorded by anybody, but I think the thinking was there. If they don't do it now, they never will. Apparently Paul was up for it. Now, wouldn't that have been interesting if John and Paul would have sat down just one more time to try and write a song together? And then if it had been a good song, they might have said, well, we've got to get Ringo to play drums on this, haven't we? And then, we've got to get George to do one of his, slide guitars or his guitar solo or something. So, if that would have actually happened, then maybe, and it's a very, very big maybe, isn't it? We might have got a Beatles single, a proper Beatles single, or even a proper Beatles reunion. An album, maybe even a show or a little tour. I don't think they would have gone on a massive tour. I think anything they would have done would have been slightly low key if they could have done it low key. But I don't think. I think if that would have happened, I don't think it would have been permanent. I think they would have still carried on with the solo careers as well. But I think they would have tried to do something as the Beatles. We're never going to know, are we, folks? You know, after John died, the closest we got was when they did Free as a Bird, Real, other than obviously the last year's Now and Then. But somewhere out there is a version of Grow Old With Me which has got some connection with the Beatles. Whether we will ever get to hear that, I don't know, because time's running out, isn't it? So, Paul and Mingo, if you're watching, because I'm sure you watch my videos, if you still have got your working copy of Grow Old With Me, please finish it off. Even if it's only to put on a reboot of Anthology or something like that. You know, we know that the tape was in pretty poor condition when you got it, but look what you've done with Now and Then. You know, so it can be done. It could be done. Would there be a demand for it? I don't know. I think as true Beatles fans would like to hear it, wouldn't we? But then again, they could do it, and it could turn out to be a load of rubbish, couldn't it? Sometimes things are best left alone. But yeah, what could have happened if John hadn't been murdered on that cold December night in 1980? Eh? We'll never know, will we, folks? We'll never ever know. So let's just, again, take a minute to just think about all the joy, love, happiness, fun that John brought us while he was still alive on what would have been his 84th birthday today. And I'm sure he is having a good party up there with George and Brian, you know, and probably Stu Sutcliffe and, you know, Brian Jones. You know, it's, you know, on days like this, it just makes you think sometimes, what if, doesn't it? But yeah, if you've liked this video and you want to have a go and you want to make a video, please do. Just tag me in the title if you do. If you've liked the video, please give me a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, just think about subscribing. It's free, it doesn't cost you a penny. Thank you to everybody that is subscribing, by the way. You know, subscriptions are still going up. I'm getting lots of likes, I'm getting lots of comments. So if you want to leave a comment, obviously they are more than welcome. It is taking me a little bit of time to answer some of my comments because I'm answering them, but they're not coming through that I have answered them till like a week later sometimes. I don't know if it's the internet around here where I live or whatever, but yeah. And then obviously because of my work patterns have changed and everything like that. So please be patient. You know, I do try and answer as many comments as I possibly can. So that's going to be it, folks. So love and peace to you all. Whatever you're doing, please stay safe. A couple of quick Beatles twist and shout outs. One to Patricia. Are you alright, me duck? At a Little Beatles Corner in America. If you haven't checked that one out, check it out. Patricia at Little Beatles Corner. A wonderful first generation Beatles fan. And I'm like you, yeah, I'm still collecting things all these years later, as you can see. Also a twist and shout out to, also in America, Beatle Brad. Hope everything's okay with you, mate. And you did comment me on the one that I did about the 10 Beatles questions. I'd like you to do a video on that, mate. I really would like you to do a video on that. You don't have to, obviously, you don't have to. Beakley Tone of Beakley Tone's Beatles channel fame. Out, mate. If you want a review of the John Lennon Mind Games meditation mixes, I think I've said that right. He's just done a review on them. Very, very brilliant review, mate. Thumbs up. I did put your thumbs up on your thing. I'm still like that. In one way I want them, and in another way I don't. I'm on the thinking now that from what you were saying, where you're saying you've got to consider it not to be a pop album, which isn't, is it? So I'm thinking, well, technically then that should go in like the category in my collection, not necessarily in yours, of the experimental albums. Yeah, no, I don't know. It's one of them. I'm still like that, mate. Yes, I'm still like that. I know you can stream it, so maybe I should try and stream it first. Yeah, but you've done a absolutely fantastic job on that, mate. You should be getting paid for doing that review. It is a really, really nice review. And then another one to Gav Axman Spins. If you haven't checked Gav's channel out, please do. It's an amazing little channel. It's not a Beatles channel as such. He does a little bit of everything. He does fun things, not he does serious things. He does finds videos, show and tell videos. I think he's just done a thing on the Smiths, hasn't he? So if you like your indie music and stuff like that, it's brilliant. And he's a very, very nice chap as well. I think me and you might meet up one day and have a pint, mate. That's if you drink. You might not drink, I don't know. Because you're not that far, are you? You're in Birmingham and I'm in Derby, so I'm sure we could find somewhere halfway or something like that. And that's about it, folks. I could go on doing twist and shouts to loads and loads of people, but I wanted to try and do this for 20 minutes. We're on about 26 at the minute, haven't we? So that's not too bad for Beatle Dave, is it? So whatever you're doing out there, peace and love to you all. Stay safe. Remember, Beatle Dave loves you. Without you, this channel won't be half as successful as it is. A splendid time is guaranteed for all. I hope you've enjoyed that video. Just a little bit of fun. And if you want to join in, please do. If you've got your own channel, make a video of it. Just tag me in the title. So until the next time, it's Beatle Dave saying, cheerio, me ducks. Whatever you're doing, like I say, stay safe. Peace and love, peace and love. And as my mate Beatle Buddy say, I'm out of here. Shoo.